Greetings goers of YouTube, just call me Dr. Storm. So, unless you've been living under a rock for the past 4 years or so, you've probably heard of this little show called Hazbin Hotel. Created by YouTube animator Vivian Medrano, or VivziePop as she's more widely known as. The show was about the Princess of Hell, Charlie, trying to run a hotel where sinners who got sent to Hell go to redeem themselves and get sent to Heaven instead, in order to solve Hell's overpopulation problem that leads to many sinners needing to be slaughtered by angels on a yearly basis. However, the residents of Hell mock and ridicule her for this idea, citing it as ludicrous, leading her to working with a very powerful demon overlord known as Alistair, the radio demon, who offers to help her with the hotel in exchange for the amusement of seeing her and others who stay at the hotel fail. Other characters in the show include Vaggie, Charlie's girlfriend who supports her endeavor but with caution, Angel Dust, an adult film star who's staying at the hotel just to have a free place to stay, and Husk, a drinker and a gambler who only ends up working at the hotel because he's on Alistair's leash. An animated pilot for the show first aired on VivziePop's own YouTube channel near the end of 2019, with the pilot for a show that takes place in the same universe, Helluva airing on her own YouTube channel shortly after. Both pilots were received incredibly well at the time of their release. The level of production for both shows was significantly greater than that seen in other YouTube animations at the time, and they honestly felt like something that you could find on TV or a streaming service. In fact, Hazbin in particular actually did get greenlit by A24 Films and was set to release as an official series on Amazon Prime. Thus, the story for VivziePop and Hazbin Hotel had sort of become an underdog triumph story. An independent creator with a story to tell was able to put her blood, sweat, and tears, along with the support of Patreon backers and other creators on her platform, into her own passion project to the point where an official studio picked it up to help bring it to life and distribute it to the masses. A dream that many have in life, but that many also don't get to acquire. But that's not to say Helluva was left for dead. In fact, VivziePop, along with co-creator Brandon Rogers, kept working on the show to the point where, at the time of this video's release, there are 1.5 seasons worth of free episodes for viewing on YouTube. And yet, despite continuing in this way, the production value for Helluva remained fairly high for YouTube standards. The professional voice talent from the pilot carried over into the official series, with co-creator Brandon Rogers himself voicing the main character, Richard Steven Horvitz of Invader Zim fame, and Erica Lindbeck, who I am absolutely in no way biased towards. And other professional talent was brought on board as well, including Christina Valenzuela, Norman Reedus, at least for the first season, and Kesha, though they didn't have her actually sing for bullshit music industry legal reasons and whatnot. VivziePop also created her own animation production company, Spindlehorse, to work on Helluva, which consists of other YouTube animators, both big and small, working in it, such as Gregzilla and Kitten Sneeze. While not funded by a major studio, seeing VivziePop, along with the support of so many others, come together and release something on the level of Helluva for free on YouTube is certainly an impressive feat, and the animators, voice talent, and other departments that help build the show deserve quite a lot of praise. There is one particular department, however, that doesn't deserve as much praise but a lot of scrutiny instead. And that's the writing. Season 1 of the show admittedly had some issues when it comes to world building, consistency, clunky exposition, and contrivance. But there were plenty of other things to praise with the writing too, such as good jokes and character moments. Season 2, however, is where shit really hit the fan, and the writing issues from Season 1 not only amplified, but a lot of what was good about Season 1 disappeared as well. The premise of the show was about a business of imps who work as mercenaries that go to Earth to kill people for sinners who got sent to Hell. Yet, VivziePop just doesn't seem to want to focus on that anymore, despite Helluva intended to be the more lighthearted comedic show compared to Hazbin. Instead, a lot of Helluva in Season 2 consists of relationship drama and daddy issues, which is a sentiment a lot of people besides just me have. And yet, despite this greater focus on character relationships, a lot of characters, whether they be protagonists, antagonists, or supporting characters, took a big hit either by getting simplified, becoming jokes or shells of their former selves, or barely even being present at all. I'd go more into my issues with Helluva, but I mostly want to focus on Hazbin Hotel in this video, and there are dozens of other good videos out there that have already gone into good detail explaining the issues of the show. If I ever do make a video trying to dissect Helluva, it would most likely be after Season 2 ends, whenever that may be. The main reason I want to briefly go over my own and many other people's growing dislike of Helluva is to help explain the expectations that were going into Hazbin Hotel. Along with the show VivziePop was working on at the time, experiencing noticeable rots, there were other things occurring along the way making people less enthused about Hazbin Hotel. After A24 picked the show up, there was a change in art style to something that looked less unique and fluid and more rigid, stiff, and, well, red. And this is coming from someone whose favorite color has always been red. This is most likely because while Spindlehorse was helping animate the show, they were also co-animating with Bento Box Entertainment, who are known for animating Bob's Burgers, a respected adult animated series, alongside other adult animated series that are not respected or well known for looking appealing or having high-paced animation, which Helluva Boss has, and which Hazbin will most likely have quite a lot of. Additionally, every voice actor in the pilot, both singing and speaking, got recast with Hollywood and Broadway talent. And knowing how much worse voice actors have it than on-screen and on-stage actors, the original voice cast that helped bring the characters to life and make the pilot as loved as it was, not getting to be a part of the official series in favor of bigger names and more well-known talent, is not something a lot of people were very happy with. At the very least, many of the voice actors still do find work. For instance, Michael Kovac, the voice of Angel Dust, is basically in half of all of their YouTube animated series. And Ed Bosco, the speaking voice for Alistair, lands plenty of roles in various video games and anime, while still doing voice work for VivziePop on Helluva Boss, such as Stryker in Season 2 after they couldn't get Norman Reedus back. Even though Stryker just kind of fucking sucks now because of the shitty writing in Season 2. On top of these huge changes with production, other factors were turning people away from VivziePop and her work. Many found her responses to criticism on Twitter about her shows to be unprofessional and embarrassing. People created If VivziePop Wrote X memes, where they inserted excessive swear words and sex jokes into various media to mock Helluva Boss's writing and comedy. And a week before the show released, an animated music video leaked of the cartoon beatbox battles guy getting abducted and sexually assaulted by Charlie that he paid $50,000 to have animated. Well, okay, that one didn't really ruin anyone's perception of the show, that was just really fucking funny. I'm sorry, can we just talk about that whole thing for a second here? Okay, so first off, this guy has announced multiple times that he couldn't pay his animators properly, yet dropped $50,000 on an animation where he doesn't even actually fuck the character. Second, while this does look well animated, is this really worth $50,000? I know it's only a good thing for an animator to get overpaid considering how they're typically treated in the industry, but still. Thirdly, and most importantly, there are far better characters to choose for this scenario. I mean, fuck, you give me the Verbalace money and I'm instantly having the Amazon from Dragon's Crown booty slam my face into oblivion. Though, if I absolutely had to choose a VivziePop character, it would 100% be Verosica from Helluva Boss. Or Luna. So, as you can see, despite how good the pilot was, a lot of time has passed and quite a lot of things have changed. While VivziePop's success story is certainly something to celebrate and is a beacon of hope for other creators in other corners of the internet achieving their dreams also, that still doesn't mean that a successful show in terms of finances and viewership is one that is successful in being of good quality. Just as Helluva Boss became something far different from its pilot, there's a nagging feeling myself and others have that Hazbin Hotel will also deviate too far from the initial vision people saw over 4 years ago by now. Now that the first 4 episodes are out on Amazon Prime, let's get into my initial thoughts on each episode to see whether or not that nagging feeling is correct. Episode 1, Overture, begins with a storybook telling of the Adam and Eve story from the Bible, along with the fall of Lucifer, explaining that he was a misunderstood dreamer who was just trying to help humanity by giving them the forbidden fruit. Many have mocked this already for being a juvenile, cliche, and, dare I say, Reddit sequence, to which I honestly have to agree on all 3. It also explains that the angels exterminate sinners in hell every year in order to make sure they can't rise up against them ever again, even though the character reading this story, Charlie, acknowledges later in the episode that the extermination is done in order to solve an overpopulation problem in hell. It's technically possible for both to be the causes of the extermination, but it's just odd to me how 2 different reasons come from the exact same character at different times in the episode, without both being acknowledged at the same time. After that, we then meet our cast of characters in very clunky expository dialogue. So, while I'm assuming almost everything in the pilot is canon to the show, it's very clear the writing team tried to account for people not watching the pilot for free on YouTube since it couldn't be shown on Amazon Prime with the rest of the series. I can't say I can think of a better workaround for this issue, but it's still a problem nonetheless, and one that takes up about 1/4 to 1/3 of the episode's runtime. We then get our A and B subplots for the episode, with Charlie meeting with the angels to discuss her plan to rehabilitate sinners, and the rest of the hotel staff trying to shoot a new commercial. The commercial subplot honestly doesn't really go anywhere, aside from one interesting interaction between Vaggie and Alistair, and it kind of just feels pointless in the end because we don't even get to see what they made for the commercial. As for the A-plot, Charlie performs the musical number Happy Day in Hell on her way to meet with the angels, and it's here that one of the main issues with how the show looks becomes apparent. That being that the camera jerks around way too fucking much a lot of the time. I don't know if it's the mask animation errors and stiffness or if they just thought it would be a good stylistic choice, but regardless, it is an assault on the eyes. When Charlie actually meets with the angels, we get one of the biggest problems with the premise. That being that the angels are no better than the demons. With Adam, the leader of the extermination squad, even making the If Vivzy Pop wrote X memes look like a prophecy of how unfunny the humor can be in this show. I can see them going for a heaven is just as bad as hell scenario for the show, but by going for it so early, they just make it seem like Charlie's efforts to redeem sinners is, well, as pointless as the commercial subplot. In fact, Adam sings an entire musical number, Hell is Forever, to explain to Charlie that they wouldn't accept the sinners into heaven anyway and are moving up the next extermination by 6 months. Maybe as a twist near the end of the series or by the end of the season, this could work, but by conveying this to the protagonist in episode 1, you just make them going through with chasing their goals look meaningless since they won't reach them anyway. Also, while the jerky camera is very prevalent in this number too, the song is pretty damn catchy. At the end of the episode, we learn that the angels decided to move up the extermination because an exterminator was recently killed in the latest one, and this is the first time this has ever happened. Really. In all the centuries these exterminations have been happening on an annual basis, at no other point was an angel killed by any resident of hell for any reason or by any methods. Yeah, I fucking call bullshit on that. Overall, this episode is a pretty rocky start for the series. Episode 2, Radio Killed the Video Star, begins with Sir Pentious, the same inventor snake guy from the pilot, attacking the hotel to get to Alistair, only for Alistair to curb stomp the shit out of him. For the first half of this episode, we spend time meeting more antagonists for the series, known as the Vs, consisting of Valentino, Angel Dust's manager, Velvet, a fashion designer, and Pyrocynical, Vox, a rival to Alistair who specializes in TV rather than radio. I think the Vs work well enough as antagonists, and while they don't necessarily care about thwarting the hotel and its motivations specifically, at least as far as we know right now, they have connections to people who are associated with the hotel, and their actions against these individuals could easily put it into disarray. Besides, we also have Adam being more of an antagonist to Charlie and her goals specifically. Though, much like Adam, Vox and Valentino in particular are not helping Vivzy Pop's case against the If X was written by Vivzy Pop memes. Valentino is pissed about Angel Dust staying at the Hazbin Hotel, but Vox tells him to do nothing in order to maintain an image and make it look like he has Angel Dust under his control. Which is decent reasoning, but personally I feel like there are enough resources, mercenaries, and middlemen in hell for you to get him out of there without harming your image. Like Stryker and Helluva Boss. Well, okay, maybe not Stryker from Season 2, but you get the picture. In fact, they actually do send a spy later in the episode anyway once Vox finds out that Alistair is working at the hotel. But not before the musical number Stayed Gone, in which Vox tries to make Alistair look like a fool on TV, only for Alistair to get back on his radio show and do just that to him. My only gripe with this number is that they make a strange decision to have Vox and Alistair talk really fast in rhythm, but then other times they just don't seem to talk in rhythm at all. It just sounds messy to me, though maybe the point was to make Vox look incompetent and that was the method by which they attempted to do so. Also, radio doesn't rhyme with video, you're basically just rhyming Dio with itself. The spy that the V send to the hotel coincidentally turns out to be Sir Pentious, as he is pathetic and thus seems like a non-threat and one of the more believable candidates to stay there. As they settle Sir Pentious down into the hotel, there is a good character moment in here for Angel Dust where he envies Pentious getting along well with Charlie while happily partaking in the hotel activities, only to retreat to his room and see a slew of voicemails from Valentino yelling at him to answer his calls and come back to him, showing that he also came to the hotel to escape from Valentino and foreshadowing events to come in episode 4. Sir Pentious gets caught setting up cameras for Vox, and when he calls Vox to get him out of there, Vox thinks so little of him, he just laughs at his failure and leaves him to the mercy of the hotel staff, which even makes Pentious say that they should just kill him and get it over with. Charlie, however, uses this opportunity to help progress Pentious' redemption and make him a genuine guest of the hotel through the musical number It Starts With Sorry. Yeah, I got nothing for commentary on this musical number, it kinda just exists. After everyone leaves, Alistair then taunts Vox on Sir Pentious' wristwatch he used to contact him, and the episode ends. Overall, this episode was okay, though I feel like spending so much time introducing more villain characters so early on wasn't that wise of a choice, especially with how much of episode 1 was wasted on exposition and with how much time Charlie spent away from the other characters in that same episode. Episode 3, Scrambled Eggs, has another Plot A and Plot B, with Alistair taking Sir Pentious' egg minions out with him as he goes to a meeting with other demon overlords, while Charlie and Vaggie run trust exercises to help the hotel guests and staff get along better. The trust exercise subplot tries to make it seem like Vaggie is taking charge with the activities and failing, but that's really only true with the third one, in which she throws the other characters into a war zone. Sure, she gave a motivational speech for the trust fall activity, but didn't even do anything that actually resulted in the outcome being less and favorable. And the second activity of going to a brothel was Angel Dust's idea that she was displeased with once he took everyone else there. As such, Vaggie's feelings of thinking she can't help Charlie seem to come out of nowhere and just don't feel justified within this episode. And it especially isn't helped by the fact that the episode clearly cares more about the Alistair subplot, where he meets up with an old Overlord friend Zestiel and attends a meeting with other Overlords discussing what they're going to do about the next extermination. Velvet arrives during the meeting with the head of the angel we saw dead at the end of episode 1. How she obtained this is rather questionable, but it at least doesn't seem to conflict with any information we already know. She insists that the angels can be killed and that the overlords should fight back against them, only for the overlord hosting the meeting, Carmilla Carmine, who is also a weapons dealer, to push back against her and initiate a musical duel against Velvet in the number Respectless. While the song is well composed and well performed, it just feels weird to have it here in the third episode of the first season when we still haven't spent all that much time with our main characters. This song is between the one member of the V's we spent the least time with and know the least about, with seemingly no connections to any of the other main cast like Valentino and Vox have, and a character we literally just met like 3 minutes ago who isn't even fond of Alistair. This whole dead angel and moving up the extermination plotline honestly feels like it should have just been something they saved for season 2. Like, you could have had season 1 be Charlie trying to prove to the angel she can redeem X amount of sinners before the next extermination, with the angels thinking the idea is so ludicrous that they'll let her try just to see her fail for their own amusement. And then when she proves she was right, they then move up the next extermination to spite her or challenge her further. But instead, what could have raised the stakes in Season 2 is being crammed into the first season that VivziePop should be using to build up and develop our main cast of characters. Also, with the dialogue between the Overlords and Velvet in this episode, as well as the dialogue between Adam and the Angel accompanying him at the end of episode 1, it seems that the residents of Hell believe the Angels cannot be killed for some reason that is never established or explained. Velvet reports this as if this is a huge revelation, and Zestiel asks Carmilla, who actually was the one who killed the angel, why she didn't confess to it at the meeting and make her power known. God, just all this makes it seem even more unbelievable that a single angel has only died just now in an extermination and not at any other point since the creation of heaven and hell. All it would take is someone with the ambition of Sir Pentious and the power of one of the overlords, and probably even more angels' bodies would have dropped by now. And considering hell in this universe is known for being overpopulated, you would have had at least one motherfucker like that. Carmilla explains in the musical number Whatever It Takes that she kept killing the angel a secret to prevent her people from war, including her own daughters, whom she slew the angel at the time to protect, which does actually make sense and is a good motivation to keep it a secret. But if that's the case, then why the flying fuck didn't she hide or get rid of the body? Like, look, it's just sitting there out in the open for the angels to find, and Velvet was even able to get its head. Oh, right, I should also mention that this musical number is actually a duet with Vaggie, in which Vaggie expresses her desire to be Charlie's knight in shining armor and do whatever it takes to do so. Yeah, Vaggie's first song in the series, and she has to share it with someone we just met this episode, who just had a song with another character, and who Vaggie doesn't even know on any personal level as far as we know currently. Also, I should take this time to mention that despite being the first person listed in the end credits of every episode, Stephanie Beatriz turns in the worst performance in the show as Vaggie. She just sounds like she's half-assing all her lines, and while her singing is nice, it sounds like she's making no attempts to actually sing as her character, leading to Vaggie's singing voice sounding nothing like her speaking voice. After the number, Vaggie returns to Charlie, who shows her that the last exercise she put everyone else through actually did help them bond. So, not only does this make Vaggie's rush self-doubt arc pointless, but the events of the hotel gang trusting one another happened off fucking screen. Oh yeah, also, one of the egg minions wound up in the meeting and around Carmilla when she confessed to Zestiel and told Alistair that Carmilla killed the angel. Worst episode of the season thus far. Pretty fucking shit, honestly. Episode 4, Masquerade, is probably the best episode in the series thus far, and the one I have the least points of criticism on. And that's mostly because it's just an episode with no A or B plot that uses its time to let our characters interact with one another and that lets us explore them. Husk at the beginning of the episode shows how much he's been able to psychoanalyze everyone in the hotel after being the bartender for so long and hearing about everyone's problems, including Angel Dust, whose sexual demeanor he calls a facade. While this does involve Husk directly stating character traits of everyone else in the room, I think it feels natural in this context, as he's trying to prove how he has everyone figured out to a T. Angel then has to leave for a film shoot with Valentino, much to Charlie's disappointment with wanting him to partake in hotel activities. As such, she goes to the shoot to try and convince Valentino to give Angel some time off after Vaggie told her that as the Princess of Hell, she could try using her authority more. Charlie remains persistent to get Angel time off despite him clearly not wanting her to, and ends up pestering the cast and crew on set about the hotel. And she even accidentally starts a fire on set. The way in which Charlie screws things up at the shoot is pretty in character for her, and the episode as a whole doesn't try to relieve her of guilt or say she was in the right for doing what she was doing. So this is the point of praise for me. Charlie's actions get Angel Dust in trouble for doing all this, and Valentino takes him away to beat him and remind him of their contract. When they return, Angel aggressively tells Charlie to leave after Valentino told him to get her out of there, which she does, and they continue the shoot, with Angel starting the musical number Poison. This sequence has received a lot of controversy on Twitter, fuck you Elon, I'm not calling it X, with many saying it fetishizes or glamorizes sexual assaults, but I have to disagree. The sequence consists of Angel getting into many sexual activities and erotically dancing, seemingly pleased with it, while also cutting to sexual encounters where he was clearly traumatized and most likely did not give much of his consent for, proving Husk at the beginning of the episode is correct when he accused him of the facade. Though the reason for the facade is now revealed to be a coping mechanism for Angel's traumatic experiences. This, along with the scene where Valentino beat him earlier, which was a fairly raw scene, is a very effective way of getting across how horrible Angel's situation is, despite his demeanor to the other characters in earlier episodes. Cutting to Angel's painful and fearful experiences more frequently as the song goes on, only to end in him having a panic attack and having nobody to confide in, really just highlights how Angel's method of coping is a method of self-destruction, whether it's his choice to put this facade on or not. Just look at what Vivzie can accomplish with writing when she actually focuses on her characters. After the musical number, Angel returns to the hotel with Husk still calling him a fake, leading him to storm back out. Vaggie and Charlie ask Husk to keep an eye on Angel to make sure he's okay, since he was the one who just made Angel leave again. Husk tails Angel to a bar and stops him from drinking something that some guys Angel was messing around with were clearly spiking for him. Husk takes Angel outside and the two begin to argue, which leads to Husk pressing Angel more about his facade and Angel finally opening up about it, even admitting that he believes himself to be Valentino's favorite toy, and if Valentino's favorite toy breaks, then Valentino will throw it away and Angel will finally be rid of him. As hard as moments like this hit, I feel the dialogue is unfortunately fairly clunky in this entire exchange, with one example being Angel saying, "It's not an act, it's who I need to be," which kind of just sounds like you're still saying it's an act. Husk then explains that he used to be a demon lord who gambled all his power away, hence why he resorted to making a deal with Alistair and being at his mercy. This then leads us into the musical number Loser Baby, which is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, number of the series thus far. People on Twitter are also saying that Husk is victim blaming in the song, though again, I have to disagree. Husk clearly isn't trying to make Angel feel worse about his trauma, nor is he trying to guilt Angel into thinking that everything that happened to him is all his fault. He's trying to say, I'm in this shit, you're in this shit, I can accept it, and so can you too. We can be losers together, and at least it will feel less bad for the both of us. While calling Angel a loser given what we saw him go through earlier in the episode does seem harsh, Husk clearly thinks this about himself too, and thinks that Angel accepting who he really is will help keep his facade from destroying him even further. On top of that, the song is honestly a bop, and Keith David in particular does a bang-up job. I will admit that while I do love Keith David's voice acting, I was nervous about him voicing Husk due to how different his voice sounded from Husk in the pilot. But after this number especially, I'm very happy he's on the project now. The shark guys trying to drug Angel earlier finally come out of the bar to get him back, why they waited this long to actually exit the bar when they saw Angel and Husk exit, I don't fucking know. But regardless, Angel and Husk take all the goons out and return to the hotel laughing about everything they've been through. Charlie, in tears, apologizes to Angel, and Angel forgives her and thanks her for caring about him. Honestly, I'd say that this episode was fairly good. A bit of clunk here or there, but we got some solid character moments, and I really enjoyed the interactions between Husk and Angel Dust. However, overall, I'd say that Hazbin Hotel is a pretty mixed bag so far. Many of the songs are catchy, the voice acting is good as a whole, even if I still believe the original actors from the pilot should have returned for the official series, and the show is capable of turning in interesting character moments when it actually takes the time to focus on them, as well as funny jokes when they don't use excessive cursing or sex talk. Unfortunately, the show is also bogged down by many issues with the writing that are incredibly difficult to overlook. Well, we still have 4 episodes left of the season it seems, so let's just see if they can keep the relative high of episode 4 going forward until the end. Like or dislike the video depending on what you thought of it, share your thoughts in the comments down below, subscribe if you want to see more of my content, and have a good day or night.